At the peace conference in Versailles, France, President Woodrow Wilson saw his idea of a League of Nations turned into a reality. The League was dedicated to solving international conflicts peacefully. In a move representative of American sentiments, the Senate rejected membership in the League of Nations. In the aftermath of World War I, Americans wanted to turn away from the problems overseas and tended to isolate themselves from international events. While America's collective head was buried in the sand, leaders influential to America's future were rising throughout Europe. For the Russian people, the years after World War I were a time of dying. Civil war, disease, and starvation took the lives of 9 million people between 1918 and 1920. 5 million more died in the Great Famine of 1921. During this time, Bolshevik leader Vladimir Lenin was in power. In 1921, Lenin developed the new economic policy that combined features of capitalism and socialism and marked the end of war communism. The economic situation began to improve, helped by the incentive of private ownership for workers. In 1924, Lenin created a socialist society called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The USSR was a dictatorship controlled by Lenin and his communist associates. Lenin died in 1924. Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin waged a bitter 4-year battle. The two leaders had opposing ideas concerning the direction of communism. Stalin searched for ways to consolidate his power in the Soviet Union, while Trotsky and his followers sought world revolution. Stalin's political expertise vaulted him to the position of sole dictator of the USSR. He exiled Trotsky to Siberia, then banished him from the Soviet Union.
Stalin's trial against me is built upon false confessions, extorted by modern inquisitorial methods in the interest of the ruling clique. There are no crime in history more terrible in intention and execution than the Moscow trials of Zinoviev Kamenev and of Petakov Radek. These trials developed not from communism, not from socialism, but from Stalinism.
In 1928, Stalin launched his first 5-year plan as an attempt to get the Soviet Union caught up with other industrialized nations. Progress had its price. Millions of peasants were either moved onto collective farms or forced to move into cities to work in factories. Resistors were starved to death, sent to slave camps, or executed by the secret police. Stalin's persuasion through terror foreshadowed the purges he would inflict on the Soviet people in the years ahead. Meanwhile, in Italy, Benito Mussolini was trying to rebuild the Roman Empire. In 1919, he started the fascist movement, which was named after the Roman symbol for imperial power. The fascists were an extremely nationalistic group that appealed to discontented elements of the working and middle classes. They opposed democratic and socialist movements, held racist ideologies and aggressive military policy, and believed in a leader with absolute power who embodies the ideals of the nation. Using threats and violence, Mussolini's black-shirted troopers seized control of numerous Italian cities. Mussolini promised the Italian people a return to the glory days of the old Roman Empire. On October 23, 1922, during a march to Rome, he proclaimed to 6,000 of his followers, "Either the government will be given to us or we shall take it." The strength of the fascist movement forced King Victor Emmanuel III to make Mussolini Prime Minister of Italy, and by 1925 he declared himself dictator. In Germany, Adolf Hitler believed his homeland could become powerful again after its World War I defeat. In 1923, he tried to overthrow the Bavarian government in Munich. This attempted coup, labeled the Beer Hall Putsch, failed, and Hitler was sent to jail for 5 years. Hitler only served 9 months of the sentence. In that time, he wrote Mein Kampf, or My Struggle, detailing his vision of Germany's future and his plans to steal land from other nations. In the book, he also voiced his hatred for those he considered non-Germans, especially Jews and communists. For the remainder of the decade, Hitler would successfully rebuild the National Socialist German Workers, or Nazi Party. Through remarkable speeches and propaganda, he would rise to power as Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Back in the United States, strong leadership was practically non-existent.